Richie Rich Show.
Hey, what's up, y'all? What's going on? Richie Rich with a late night tip, sitting here just reading some of the comments that I had for my videos. Um, I guess some people, some people thought it might have been a little insensitive of me to post that video of the young man getting shot. So I understand. And, at the end of the day, we have to say rest in peace. And I hope that his family and whoever can find peace. I mean, because you don't want to see anybody die. Okay. And then, this video here, I'm making a response to my, what was it? My Prime video where I said not to lease there. That got a lot of attention. And a lot of you guys genuinely agree with me. A lot of you do. In the comment section, there was one guy who said he makes $3,000 to $5,000 a week. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Don't believe everything you hear and read, especially coming from truck drivers. We like to inflate things sometimes, but most of the comments were pretty much in agreement with me. So I've been sitting here looking at the numbers. I just got home from being on the road for the last, how long was I out for? I've been out for a month. It's been kind of tough. I mean, I've been doing okay. The big thing that saves me and the company I currently pull for, which I'm not going to mention, is because they don't hesitate to push loads through for you. I think that's a major thing when you come work for a trucking company, especially a trucking company that essentially is its own bank, because Prime is its own factoring company. So they do have money and surplus to pay, but one thing that saves me is, like, for instance, my payroll cutoff is early in the week, but I can still get paid on loads up to Friday. So if I need to push a couple more loads through, they will do it for me, and that's what makes this company awesome. I'm gonna think about divulging them. I mean, they have mixed reviews like everybody else, but they've been pretty good to me. Now, I think it's not the company per se; it's the fleet manager, driver manager who I work with. If you work with a good fleet manager or driver manager who does recognize you want to be profitable, one that does want to make sure you're good, who actually cares, then that makes or break you. Because you can work for Prime and have a terrible fleet manager and they not pay you, okay, or not make sure you're paid. Like I told you in my last video, one of my buds was in the hole for about 3 weeks, and even a load that he needed to get pushed through, they wouldn't push it through for him. They rather, not do that and pay the truck instead of paying you, which I think is very foul. Okay, I think that's a very, very foul thing. But back to Prime and their lease. I'm doing some numbers here, right? And it is super expensive. Now, I know you guys are thinking, well, Rich doesn't work for Prime anymore, so, he's talking bad about them. I think in my last video, I had a comment on there from a Swift driver saying, well, he didn't make it at Swift, so he's spreading Swift bad news. It's not that. It's that I'm bringing awareness through some mistakes that I made. Now, when I originally worked for Prime, it wasn't a bad deal, okay? The market was great, okay? You could flip a coin and make $3,000 a week. You could. Solo. You could. Prime, the way they do their pay structure for the drivers, it was good for that time period, okay? But just like everything in this earth changes, so does Prime and money, unfortunately. Today I read on a letterhead on, I think it was Trucker News or something, Davis Transportation. They're near my house where I live. And I did almost work for them. I figure they're close in town. I think they're not 15 miles away from my house. But what made me not work for Davis Transportation was I didn't see any APUs on their trucks. And I'm real funny about working with people who don't have auxiliary power units on their trucks. You know, I need the air conditioning and the heat, and I don't need to be idling. That costs a lot of money, especially if I'm paying for it. But they just went out of business. 55 years, he said that he was in business, and he just shut his doors. And, reading his letter to his employees and essentially to the world, because he put it out on social media, um, he sounded like the owner of Davis Transportation, sounded like a stand-up guy. Okay, I wish I could have worked for him because he was very honest and he was very straightforward. And essentially, what he said was that the market has been stagnant for years, and he says we have not been profitable in years. And he says we're not on the verge of bankruptcy, but we're not profitable. We're not able to keep the doors open. He says all our vendors, all our employees, and our equipment that we owe will be paid, but we're coming to a close at the end of April. He's going to close the doors after 55 years. And I think he has kids or children working in his business. I think it was a family business. And they decided not to carry on the reins either because the trucker industry is doing bad. And see, you know, that person I can respect. He has my utmost respect. And I'm sorry to hear that, you know. And when I read that, I said, wow, that's a solid guy, because most companies would just close their doors and not say anything to you. And you find out that you're out of a job when you're 1,000 miles away from home. You guys remember Celadon's big thing, and who else? Eagle Trucking, Arrow Trucking. I never forget. It got so bad for, I want to say it was Eagle Trucking, that even Prime put out a thing saying that if we gave a driver a ride home, they'll give us some money for that, and to encourage them to apply to Prime. I think that's, if I'm not correct, guys correct me, but I remember seeing that letterhead. So that guy's a stand-up guy, you know. So one thing that I liked about him is being honest is that I wish Prime would do the same thing too. And it feels like Prime is just putting a Band-Aid over a Band-Aid over a Band-Aid over a wound that is not going to heal. Instead of them being honest with their employees and honest with their drivers and say, look, guys, the market is bad. Okay? The market is bad. We're doing bad. Instead of making all these crazy changes and putting people in situations where they're not able to provide for their family because they got to pay for a leased truck. Now, after doing the numbers here, right? After looking at the numbers and doing my little calculations, with everything said, the fixed costs are about $1,600 a week. Okay, that includes all your insurances and all your stuff, your maintenance fund, all that stuff that goes on top of the truck lease payment. So technically, per month, that's like, let me see, that's like 6,000. That's a little over. That's almost $6,500 a month in lease payments, and that's roughly $80,000 a year. Now their lease terms go for 3 years, so in 3 years you pay about, let me see, what is that? $240,000 in lease payments, but it doesn't stop there. Okay, then you got to put down, if you want to buy the truck after 3 years, you got to put down 15 grand, and then the truck total is what the market value is. And Prime, they don't give you a discount on that. They charge you a premium. So after 3 years, your truck's still going to be worth $80,000. So if you think about another 2 or 3 years to pay that off, you're looking at well over $340,000 or $50,000 for a truck. I'll do the math, and I'll put it up on the screen, or I'll put it in the title. But you're looking at $350,000 for a truck at Prime. I'm gonna tell you something, and I know a lot of guys are gonna say, "Well, Rich, we don't have the money down to go out to a dealership and buy a truck. We don't have the money." if you don't have the money, right, then get the money. Save up and get the money. You know, Prime, and it sucks. You know, Here's my thought about it, right? If I own Prime, and because of my purchasing power, and because of my reputation, my credit rating, I wouldn't be trying to rip drivers off like that. You know, I wouldn't be trying to charge my own employees or my own contractors a premium and buying their equipment. But it's just that has become such a business model for them. Because right now, a brand new Freightliner, right, basic model or with upgrades, is only about $180,000. So if you think about it, right, if you wanted to actually get your own truck, and you can lease it onto a company, you can lease it on the Prime. You know, it would be a whole lot cheaper for you. It would. And see, that's the mistake that I made, and a lot of people made, is when we were getting that good money, we should have been put in a way to actually buy a truck on our own and then turn around and lease it on to somebody if you wanted to. Because you can lease it on to anybody you want to. You know, you can lease it on the Prime. You could. At that time, you could. And it would have saved you a whole lot of money, and you would have had the truck paid off a lot sooner. Okay. Um, right now, if you went to a Freightliner dealership or a Peterbilt dealership, and you put down between $10,000 or $15,000, and you'll have like a 3 or 4 year payment, but it wouldn't be no $6,000 a month. It'd be something like maybe three, or maybe two and a half. It would. You would finance it the same way you finance a car. Okay, 3, 5, and 7 years, same thing, and it would save you some money in the long run. You know, and it would have been under the same warranties and everything. You know, but Prime charges its drivers a very, very high premium. And I'm not going to say that guys who are successful in that lease or, or made bad decisions. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say that this is what I'll say. Prime used its influence to charge you a premium. They use their business to charge you a premium. Yes, they have the contracts. Yes, they have the relationships already built. Okay. There's not a lot of places you can go and get onto Tyson picking up their loads or picking up Smithfield loads, you know, unless you have relationships with those companies already. And you know what? Some drivers had. They went out there and they did it. They had on their own. But Prime has them already in place, so they make it easy for you. And, for them being such a big carrier, they make it easy on you for fuel too. Because listen, when you're a single man operation, nobody's giving you any discounts for fuel. The best you can get is 5 cents. Prime's fuel discount was $1 something. Yes, it was. So I understand that part. My biggest grip about it is if I was in that position, I would be trying to use it to, you know, but I guess who helps anybody win that business? That's not a good business plan for yourself, I guess. And I guess Prime recognizes that, and I guess I need to recognize that too. Because Rob Lowe wouldn't be in business if he was in the business of helping people get on their feet, making it too easy for them, you know. But it has to be another way. And there is, you know. So when I tell guys don't lease a truck at Prime, now is not a good time because the market is so bad that you got trucking companies closing down. Okay, ones who've been in business for 50 years plus closing down, and we're going to hear more of this. You know, so guys, take what I say heavy or take it with a grain of salt as some advice. I've been doing this thing 12 years and I made some mistakes. I have. And I'll be first to tell you that I had to go through the ropes to figure out what my mistakes were and what I was doing wrong. Because it doesn't make any sense after 12 years to be leasing, right? But I kind of feel like I was forced into leasing because you want you want the higher pay. You do, especially when you're over the road. You know, this is for over the road. It's not for local or regional. We even local. You know, 'cause there's some guys who work local who make good money. Okay, but those jobs are very rare and very few between. So this video is not like a hate thing or anything like that. You know, you know, I feel bad for a lot of people who work for these mega carriers and they can't afford anything. They can't afford to pay their bills anymore. Like it's gotten tight and hard. And the ones at the top are so high up that they don't feel it because they're changing the goalposts to fit them. And it sucks to be used like that. Especially when you have to come home to family and explain to them why you can't pay the bills or why you have to look for another job. Okay. You know, nobody's business should be designed for people to be there for less than 2 months. And that's what Primes is right now. They can care less if somebody who's been there 30 years leaves tomorrow. You know, they can care less about that. Their thing is keep butts in the truck by any means because that's their business model. To keep leasing. Keep leasing. I don't keep leasing. Keep leasing. So anyway, fellas or ladies, I'm sitting here. Just got home. Might pour me a drink. Try to relax. I want to show you some videos. I was in Laredo the other day, and I had to stop this Mexican truck driver for doing a nose in a packed truck stop where he's about to rip off everybody's hood. And when I approached him, he didn't speak a lick of English. He didn't understand what I was saying. So I want y'all to look at that video and tell what you think. Um, I was being cool. I was just, I came out there, I saw it happening and I just started recording it. But, you know, my YouTube channel is just a reflection of what's going on here in the world. That's all. And I speak to it. I'm not trying to cause harm to anybody or anything. Like I said to you guys a long time ago, I use YouTube sometimes as a form of therapy to get things off my mind. Truck drivers, unfortunately, and see, you guys gotta understand where I came from. Even though I kind of told that I was in law enforcement, I mean, it really is a different lifestyle because I came from a situation where every morning I used to go down there and go down to the first district in DC and go get some, I used to get cream of wheat in the morning and then walk out to Superior Court and see the people walking in and out. Walk to the headquarters, see people walking in and out and talk to them. Walk my beat. I used to walk up on M Street. That used to be my beat. Anybody from DC might know what that is. That's the Georgetown area. And just walk up and down there and just patrol in those neighborhoods and stuff like that. Adams Morgan. And they were filled with people. So, I was able to talk and interact with a lot of people on the street. But trucking is the exact opposite. Some days I don't speak to anybody. I don't speak to anybody, not even my dispatcher, because they got a system now where they text you and they'd rather talk to you through text or through the Qualcomm or the tablet they give you in their trucks. So it's very impersonal, and even a couple of these last shippers receivers, they want you to call them. I was the one the other day. They posted it outside the gate. We do not let truckers in the building. And they want you to call them on the phone and they'll call you back with a door and they'll tell you to put your paperwork in the back of the trailer. And then they'll remind you again that truckers are not allowed in the building. and then they'll make you back up to the door, unload you, and then they'll call you or text you with the lumper fee, and then they call and text you with tell you you're done, and that's it. Get off the property. So trucking I went from a very talkative, communicating with people on a daily basis, with stress levels all over the range, to speaking to nobody but my YouTube followers. So that's the world I'm coming from. That's why I make YouTube videos. It's not to bash any company out here. It's just that, I'm a guy who has an opinion, and I like to express my opinion. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know, guys, but just we're getting near. I guess it's almost Easter, and I hope everybody's spending some time with family. Hope everybody's making some money. I mean, what I'm seeing on the news and what I'm seeing out in the world, things are getting more expensive. I mean, they are. I try to get a meal today from a Jamaican spot, and he went up on prices like $10. Everybody's increasing prices right now. It's getting tight. Prices are going up and pay is not. So that's why I tell guys, don't lease right now. I'm not trying to be a smart alecky or hate on Prime, but it's just that it's super expensive, and right now you're not making the money you should. I have a strong belief, and a lot of people, for some reason, it was weird that people actually disagreed with me about this. But if you lease a truck, okay, I mean, that means that you take on a lot of responsibility of that truck. Okay, you should be bringing in $2,500 a week or more. You should, as a lease operator, owner operators, you should be bringing in $2,500 or more a week. Okay, you should. You have lease operators who are bringing in 11 and 12 and $1,300 a week. And one thing you guys don't realize, when you pay your taxes, that's $200 out of that. So that's, you bring home $1,100 a week or less. That's company wages to me. That's not enough to be justified being a lease operator or owner operator, living in the truck 24/7. That doesn't make sense to me. And that's where the game is kind of messed up a little bit, because you got guys out here busting their ass for a little bit of money, and they're lease operators, you know, and owner ops who, that doesn't make sense, because if you blow it, like, here, I'll tell you what happened. I was down in Texas and I caught a bolt in my drive tire. For me to get a new one, because the company I work with, they have a national driver account, and they wouldn't let me put recaps on my drives or used tire. So they, when I got the bill, that thing was $579 for a drive. I mean, yeah, for a drive tire. That's a lot of money. Okay. I caught a rock in my windshield. That ran me about $800. What else? They get a PM. It's like $600. What else? I got a jump a couple weeks ago. Guy came out because I forgot to turn off my inverter when I went on home time. This time I left my APU and inverter on. But for him to jump me was $430. Okay. Now, if you need a tow, just my whole point is that if you're going to be a lease operator or owner op, the money has to make sense. Okay. You can't be out here calling yourself a lease operator, owner operator, and you're only making 11 or $1,200 a week. I mean, I know. Listen, I understand. Money's money. I understand you got to make anything to pay the bills, but I just feel it doesn't sit right with me. I mean, you practically live 24/7 in the truck. and you're going from home for weeks, and you're working in the most stressful conditions. I mean, you're dealing with human people who want to cut your truck off and give you the bird every other day. You know, shippers and receivers who don't want to talk to you and treat you like a nut. And for all that, for $1,100 a week, it doesn't seem worth it to me. You know, what's worth it? You can slap me and call me Susan, but pay me $4 grand, $3 grand a week. Okay, let me get $3 grand a week, and and the stress is not that bad. Okay, because the money is there, but when it's not, it's not worth it, y'all. So that's why I tell you guys in my last video, don't lease a truck. Don't, you know, because the money is not making sense. Now, I had one comment on there. Guy was like, well, Rich, I worked in fast food. I worked at Wendy's and I was on my feet 8 hours a day. I only made $400 a week and blah. Well, sir, you're right. Driving a truck is better than that. Okay, it is. But in your personal life, your ambitions and goals were low. I'm going to say it. You didn't strive to be better working at McDonald's or Wendy's. Okay. A lot of us who drive trucks, we strive to be better. What I mean is, after high school, joined the military. While in the military, went to college. After college, when became a police officer, do you understand? Took goals and ambitions and steps to become accomplished. So, you know, I have seen money, is what I'm trying to say. And I'm not hating on you guy. I'm not hating on that guy or down talking to him, but I have seen goals and ambitions. So my thought process is a little different than yours. Because if you didn't want more, you didn't get more. And that's where you came from. So that's why I'm making these videos to tell you that you deserve more. And you do. Because you worked at Wendy's and made $400 a week, okay, now you're a truck driver. You deserve to be paid as a professional. Because popular to belief, we are considered professional. And we're not treated as such. Okay? And the treatment starts with the money. You got these companies out here that literally are low paying and ripping us off. So somebody has to speak up and say it, because I'm going to tell you something. There is nobody out here in the trucking world who advocates for you. Okay? There's nobody who says, you know what, you need to pay these guys more. I guarantee you, and I wish that video would have went viral. And what I mean is, I wish it had 100,000 views. Okay? Because if I'm one person can make a change in how they do business, it might save a generation of people. Okay? If my video was able to get on there and Robert Lowe or upper management saw what I was saying and took some credence and took to heart what I was saying and said, you know what? Let's change something for the better instead of changing for the worse. That can set you up. It can set your kids up. It can set your grandkids up. Because proper to a belief, trucking used to be a generational wealth builder. It used to be. In the 90s and the 80s, guys were making so much money. They were able to buy houses, put their kids through college. They were able to do investments, retire, and they were able to have lump sums of money to take care of their families. Now the money that's out here is not enough to take care of your family, if you have a family. It's barely enough to take care of a single man. So that's why I make those videos, and that's why I come out and say, hey, Prime, don't lease there. That's why I say this is what you need. Because there has to be somebody with a voice of reasoning. There has to be somebody speaking up and saying something. It's unfortunate, though, that my videos doesn't reach more people, especially the people in power who could change things. There's nothing stopping Robert Lowe and his company from changing the way they do their lease at Prime. There's nothing stopping them. They can tomorrow say, you know what? We're going to readjust all these leases. We're going to cut them down by $500 or $600. Okay? That will help out so many people who work at Prime. It will help a lot of people out. Okay? But instead, they're thinking about their own needs and they're doing things that works for them. And I bet you if you if you go on Prime's website and you look at the web page where it says the upper management, and you see Rob Lowe, the president, the head counsel, all them guys. If you knew their salaries, it would make you sick. Okay, it would make you sick if you knew how much they were getting paid. So why not care about ours? I'm gonna tell you why. Because it is so easy to divide truckers. Truckers do not stick together for nothing. You know, there's an old joke. How many truckers does it take to change a light bulb, right? Because nobody can come to an agreement on nothing. So that's why the industry is the way it is, and this is why we are getting screwed, and this is going to hurt us, okay? It's going to hurt you guys when you're old and decrepit and you can't drive a truck no more. Have you seen a truck driver crawl out the truck, hurting, his back hunched over? He's walking with a limp. Yeah, you've seen that guy, right? Because nobody advocated for him. Nobody said, hey, we're going to make sure you have plenty of money. Make sure you're getting treated fairly. Okay? So that's why I make videos, guys. That's why I get up here and talk. So anyway, I'm about to get off this thing here. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and listening to my videos. Please comment. I do read all my comments. You know why? Because I have nothing else to do other than drive a truck. Okay, I don't have the lifestyle I used to have, but I'm going to upload some videos here. You got to see this Mexican guy down Laredo. I was down there. Listen, they done seized a couple trucks, and those trucks look really nice. I don't know the story about them, but a lot of those guys down there, man, you just got to be careful because they were running into your shit and keep it going. So I had to stop a guy from running into somebody's stuff. But peace and love, and I hope everybody is doing well. And we will talk soon. Peace. They done seized a really nice Peterbilt over there. I'm at the border, and those are brand new trucks. Now I know this dude is not doing what I think he's doing. He sure the fuck did. He tried to do a pull through in a fucking truck stop. I bet you he wears sandals. Let me go help this guy out. No, you do not. Hey, bro, are you sure? You gonna pull through there? You sure? Because you might hit somebody. All right. I'll try to help him. There's no way you could do that. No way. To do a pull through in this tight spot. Oh, it looks like he changed his mind. Okay. Yeah, brother, no. Yo, he's attempted to do it again. So basically what he's trying to do is nose in this parking lot. There's not enough clearance to do that. And what he's going to ultimately end up doing is taking out the trucks next to him, like he almost did. I don't know why you're trying to nose it in at this angle, sir. You might as well make a U-turn and try to back it in. Now, I asked him if he wanted me to help him. He said no. And I also asked him, he couldn't speak English. So he was barely able to speak English. And so look at him now. I think he is giving up. Okay, I think he's going to turn around. Yeah, just turn around, bro. Don't try to nose it in at this tight truck stop. Oh my God, it's crazy.